Hoi hoi, it's Lilith again, and for this reading vlog, we are going to read Winston Chu versus the Whimsies by Stacey Lee. Hoorah! So I'm going to start another series, specifically a duology in the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, and this is my first time reading a book written by Stacey Lee, which I'm excited about. And yeah, this is a first book in the duology, and I do hope that I get to own the second book in the duology soon. But yeah, regarding this book, it deals with Winston, who happens to have like strong impulses, and he gets this like item. I already started like reading the back of it and kind of like the introduction and a few pages of it. So yeah, that's why I kind of know. And he was given an opportunity to get a free item, like based on the first item that he touches, after helping, or saving a store, and he ends up, because of his impulses, touching a broom where, he gets to take home a broom, and for some reason things get missing and people, start like being missing. So I'm definitely curious how, that will play to the overall narrative and how his impulses will play towards narrative. So, without further ado, let's begin reading this one, and I'll catch folks later. Whoa! So here's a reading update. I read more than 100 pages of Winston Chu versus the Whimsies by Stacey Lee, and what we're getting so far is that he got like a broom and a dustpan, which, by the way, the way that they look reminded me of, or rather reminds me of, like East Asian or Southeast Asian brooms, because I think from the photograph it doesn't have like a handle. It just has like, it's just tied in like some sort of a rubber band or whatever you want to call it, and then like it's just tied with like sticks. So it is kind of like, we call it here in the Philippines wal sting. Yeah, so it just reminded me of that. Also, like, ever since that, Winston got that from Mr. Pang's shop, things are disappearing, such as his goldfish, and Coco, his little sister, is acting weird. So they think that it has something to do with it, and now they're trying to like save or sort of retrieve the goldfish back from Mr. Pang, so you get to discover that. So yeah, we'll get to find out more how they're going to save it. Now, in terms of the setting or the world, I'm still yet to get into it. I'm not sure if there's going to be an alternative world, but there's something about it for me that it feels like I'm reading more of a contemporary book, but still fine. But yeah, that's how it feels so far. So I don't know if we're going to be venturing into another world. And you can really tell that it deals with grief. Winston's dad passed away, and like even his mom is really dealing with it like difficulty, and even Philippa, Winston's older sister, is also kind of like in a way affected. I mean, that's the way I saw it. So yeah, so we'll see how things are gonna go, and I'll catch folks later. Whoa. Let me show you my new earrings. I don't know if you can tell them. So I kind of can't wait till I get like a haircut so that I can wear these like sort of clip-on earrings. Like it's just being covered by hair, but you see that, how you kind of like peers on the sides. And that's why I can't wait till I get a haircut so that I can, showcase them and wear them really well. And here's a reading update of Winston Chu versus the Whimsies by Stacey Lee. And honestly, I've read more than 200 pages, and to me, it does come across more as like a contemporary novel with like fantastical elements. It deals more of like, as I've mentioned in the earlier clip, it deals with grief and how they are now processing it. We get to see them meeting like a friend of their dad, like what happened during like the war and all of that stuff, and how they're like moving on. And you're getting to that part where they're trying to save Coco and they're kind of running out of time a bit. And Mr. Pang apparently is like a magpie. Did I pronounce that correctly? Yeah, basically, Mr. Pang is a bird. So there are these thoughts where the whole like broom and dustpan kind of thing is he kind of like involved, and actually, everything was like planned out, with the whole grabbing of things of Winston. But yeah, and honestly, in terms of like the whimsies, like they were mentioned, but we don't. For me, like I'm not really getting a lot of sense out of them. So to me, like for a fantasy novel, that is where it comes up short, or it has like an opportunity or area of improvement. It is fun. It is like it feels good in most parts, but it just happens to like lack the fantastical elements, like the a little bit more action. I'm not really exactly like a super intense one. I'm just thinking about, when I think about fantasy, there's a little bit more of like the mission or like the adventure, like the voyage. Here, like I said, it does come off like we get to hear like a lot of these backstories of their struggles, or there's something about the mood of the book that like I'm watching like some tweener or teenage American sitcom, and then they have like these like magical things going on. It does talk about feng shui as well, but yeah, that's just how it comes across. Maybe it's because I expect a lot of novels in the Rick Riordan Presents imprint to be kind of like the others. But yeah, but overall, I kind of like, the story, how it is, pretty decent. It's just not as enchanting or magical. But yeah, um, it's like it's very like there's a lot of characterization that it could be great, but a little not so sure for a fantasy novel. So we'll see. But I've been having relatively a good time for some odd reason. So yeah, we'll see what will be my rating towards like the last update, or once I wrap up, this reading vlog. So yeah, I'm going to continue reading, and I'll catch folks later. Whoa. So I just got a haircut. Hopefully you folks liked it. I needed to get a haircut because I'll be participating in Sparkle Run 2026. Don't know which of these two will be uploaded first, if it will be the Sparkle Run 2026, A Day in My Life, or this one, the Winston Chu versus the Whimsies reading vlog. And so far what we found out is that, they're dealing with, getting to know that Coco is not Coco, and now that they are kind of like figuring out how to get Mr. Pan so that they don't use Coco or Winston's stuff for getting the moon key and all that. It kind of makes me think about how in the beginning Mr. Pang is the one who needed help, when it turns out that he's the one who's like, there's like a lot of characterization or circumstances that were discussed regarding like the Cloud Weavers, especially about like Bert and Ernie, if I got their names correctly. So we got that, and we get to see how they're all processing grief. Winston's mom is trying to get things like together, and Philippa is having some changes with like how she's kind of becoming more like her brother in some ways. About how both of them were dealing with grief, with the death of their dad, and of how they are just like and like with Philippa trying to move on. And I like that scene here where Winston used his dad's dog tag, because his dad is part of the military. So yeah, and the action is getting a little bit more intense. We kind of get depressed because they're in like rescue mode now. So yeah, I'm nearly done with this book, and I'll tell you my overall thoughts probably in my next update. So I'll catch folks later. So I just finished reading Winston Chu versus the Whimsies, and I have to say that the action became more intense as we go towards the end. And at first I thought that there wasn't going to be any resolution. Coco was able to go back to her body, and it's kind of like a happily ever after kind of thing, how they were able to survive, and at the end the Chu family became happy and they've like bonded together. Kind of like how you would think that they rose from all the hurdles that they had to face, the upheavals that they had to face. Just to me, I guess, because I am aware that that there is a second book, as far as I know, at this moment, that this series with Winston Chu is a duology. So I'm kind of like thinking like, are we gonna know more about Mr. Gu in the next book? How he is running for mayor, and you can really tell that he is hungry. I mean, if you're talking about governments or governing like places, and how Winston mentioned about Mr. Gu wanting to take over the world because Mr. Gu happens to be Mr. Pang's brother, which Mr. Pang revealed, And I guess overall, like the whole eyeballs kind of thing, it could be a little bit creepy, but I guess it is part of like the fantastical elements that this book can provide. And then I'm also thinking about what else can I say? Yes, at first it was really slow. It wasn't really like the world or the magic wasn't building up. We don't really kind of understand right away what is going to be like the conflict or the challenge that they are going to solve. There are like a lot of things that were going on, but it was still kind of enjoyable. I mean, there's a mixture of like them dealing with their own like grief and their own like challenges, and of course the main plot of getting the dustpan and the broom, and then all of a sudden things were suddenly disappearing. The goldfish, by the way, Lucky, that was pretty interesting. Like how I mean, it makes sense, but I didn't kind of like think that it was going to happen. Maybe it's because we didn't really expect. I mean, I personally didn't expect much about the canoe. So yeah, I think it could be a little bit more intense. That is still appropriate for like upper middle grade or early teens, because that is kind of like the way that it seems. And I think from what I know, this doesn't really deal with a lot of like mythology. I mean, there's some concepts about keys and feng shuis, but compared to like the books in the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, where there's a lot of mythology references. This one is more of like, related to feng shui, and maybe that could be considered as Chinese mythology, but, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really have that awareness. I'm not Chinese, so yeah, but it just feels a bit different compared to like how the mythology and like the fantastical elements were kind of like tackled here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to read the next book. I really wonder what is going to happen there. I did not read like the sneak peek, because me, I like getting into books like, I'll just read like the synopsis before reading it and just really get into the story as soon as I read the book. So overall, it is fine. I'm giving this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. Feel free to comment down below your thoughts about this reading vlog, or about Winston Chu versus the Whimsies if you've read it, or if this reading vlog motivated you to read Winston Chu versus the Whimsies by Stacey Lee. And yeah, I hope you folks enjoyed it. I hope that you also get to check out the other books in the Rick Riordan Presents imprint. And you can also share the books that you are currently reading. I don't know, feel free to comment down below anything bookish, really. That's what I look for in these reading vlogs. And if you've made it this far, leave a camera emoji. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, click that subscribe button and hit that little bell icon somewhere down there to keep yourselves posted about my videos. And also put down links and handles of my social media accounts, so feel free to check me out and follow me there and support me there as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. Always be thankful and unleash the reader in you. Bye, y'all.